So PC hardware prices are not the best right now. Availability has gotten better, but the prices haven't really come down all that much. And because of that, I feel like a lot of people have put off building a gaming PC because it may not be worth it at this period of time. But what if I were to tell you that there was a gaming PC that you could build right now for around $1,100 that would give you amazing 1440p gameplay, and when you were finished with it and all the prices came down, you could sell that system for pretty much the exact same price you paid to build it. So if that sounds at all interesting to you, then stick around, because that's exactly what we're gonna build today. So I am a firm believer that right now is probably not the best time to build a gaming PC, but that's not gonna stop a lot of people from doing so. So I kind of wanted to put together a build that is gonna be extremely powerful. It's gonna give you fantastic gameplay, and it's gonna look unbelievably unique, so that way once you've used it for like 6 months to a year or so, and you want to go ahead and bump it up to like the new 5000 series Nvidia cards, or you want to get a 9070 XT, then you can do so and not pay such an extreme amount of money for those items, and you can list your old PC and make pretty much the same amount of money back from it. Now, I have put together similar spec systems, and I've actually made more from those systems than what we're going to be using as our build cost for today's system. So realistically, you could sell it for as much, or maybe even make some money depending on how the market is once the prices have come down to something that you deem acceptable. So to kick it off, let's talk about what CPU we're gonna be using. Well, that would be this little monster right here. This is the Intel i7 12700KF. This little beast has 12 total cores, 8 of which are performance cores and 4 efficiency cores, with a total of 20 threads and a max turbo frequency of 5 GHz. And just for a comparison, the AMD equivalent to the 12700KF is the Ryzen 7 7700X with 8 cores and 16 threads. So if we're just looking at the core count, the Intel chip wins. Now here's where the real win factor comes in for this particular CPU. The normal price for this CPU is like $188, but it goes on sale all the time. I was actually able to pick this CPU up for $155, and that's a phenomenal price from the performance you get from this CPU. Now, the AMD equivalent, the 7700X, is $227 as of recording right now. Now, don't get me wrong, AMD is a fantastic platform, and there's a lot of upgradability from the 7700X. You could always go to the 9000 series. You could pick up an X3D chip, maybe a 9800 X3D or a 9950 X3D if you're feeling frisky. But there's also an upgrade path from this CPU right here. You could easily pick up a 13th or 14th gen Intel chip. You can get a 14900KF, which is an unbelievably strong CPU that even rivals the 7800 X3D that was unbelievably popular just a couple months ago. But if we're building a PC that's kind of acting like a paperweight until we can build what we really want, then I'm gonna go with the 12700KF just for its value and performance. Now, our CPU does need a place to call home, so I picked up this Asus TUF B760 Wi-Fi board. Now, something you're gonna need to pay attention to when it comes to the B760 boards is which one is on sale. You usually have like one B760 that's got a pretty decent deal on it. Now, when I was piecing this whole build together, I had the MSI B760 board in my shopping cart, but right before I went to go buy it, I noticed that this board was on sale and the MSI board was no longer on sale. And I was able to get this for $135, which is an incredible deal. So you're gonna wanna make sure you're paying attention to which board is on sale at that time. Also, you gotta remember with the 12th gen CPU, you can run a motherboard that has DDR4 RAM as well as a motherboard that has DDR5 RAM. So there is a little bit of choice there. If you want a cheaper build, you can go with a DDR4 board, which you're gonna be able to find them for a little bit less money, and you're gonna have the ability to run DDR4 RAM, which is a lot cheaper than DDR5 memory. But for today's build, we did go with DDR5 because I wanted it to be, as powerful as we could for the amount of money we're gonna be spending. So now let's talk about the memory that we're gonna be using for our build today. This memory right here. This is the Clevcrass VRGB. If you have watched any of the big powerful builds that I've ever put together, there's a chance that you've seen this RAM because I absolutely love their RAM. This is a 32 gig kit, 6,000 megatransfers per second. Now this kit right here does come in at like $100, and you can find cheaper RAM out there. You could go with like a non-RGB RAM, and those run like 65 to 70 bucks, so you could save a little bit of money there. But I am building this with the idea that I'm going to be selling this system later to get the PC that I actually want. So I want to make sure that the PC that we're putting together has an extremely good look, and I think that this RAM right here will help sell the system. Now for our CPU, motherboard, and RAM combo, we also need to add in storage, because what's a PC if you can't download and store any games onto it? So I picked up a 2 terabyte Clev Crass SSD. This is a Gen 4 NVMe with 5,200 megabyte per second read speeds and 4,800 megabyte per second write speeds. Now this is the 2 terabyte NVMe, and it does come in at like $110. If you wanted to save like 50 bucks, you could go with the 1 terabyte version, which I have used in numerous builds, but because 1 terabyte is still fine, but you can fill up a 1 terabyte pretty quickly. So I wanted to make sure that we had adequate storage. And plus, once we're finished with the system, I believe 2 terabyte drive will definitely help us capture a little bit more money when we do sell it. So with our motherboard, RAM, CPU, and storage put together, we need to figure out what case we're going to be using for our build. Now the case choice is one of the most important decisions that you're going to make, because it is 100% the deciding factor on how your build is going to look. And if selling your system at any point in time is something that you like to think about, then you're going to want to make sure that it's something that looks really, really cool so that it captures a lot of attention and you can make a decent amount of money off of it because of just how good it looks. And the case we're going to be using for today is definitely going to help with that. Say hello to the Shuttle by SSUPD. That's Shuttle with an X. This thing is ultra unique. I'm gonna see if I can't get it over here and still talk to you guys without there being a glare. Fantastic. So this case is pretty unique in the fact that the motherboard is mounted sideways and the graphics card is going to hang from the top of the case. Plus you end up getting a included ARGB strip down here to add a little bit of extra excitement to your build. Now this is super unique, but the beauty of a super unique case is that if you are planning on selling your system, super unique items, they grab way more attention on Facebook Marketplace, which boosts your listing and shows it to a whole lot more people, which could result in you making some more money. So having a PC case that is like this could really benefit you in the end. Plus, this case is only $140, and I have paid $140 for cases that are nowhere near this unique. It does come included with 3 reverse blade intake fans down here at the bottom, and the ability to add 3 more fans up top, as well as 3 fans here on the side. I definitely think that this is a fantastic option for our system here today. So let's go ahead and get our motherboard situated inside of here. So with our motherboard assembly in our case, it's time to talk about our CPU cooler. Now, if I was going to be using an air cooler, I would have already put that on the motherboard before we put it inside of the case. So that pretty much tells you today we are going to be using an AIO. And the AIO that I have chosen for today's build is this Eskimo Pro 36B. I chose to use this AIO because it was in my closet and I needed to use it. But the price of this AIO right here does come in at $75, which is pretty standard for a 360 millimeter AIO. So if you didn't like the look and design of this AIO, you could always pick up maybe one of the Thermaltake ones. I believe the Thermaltake AIOs with screens on them only come in at around $88. So if you wanted to increase your price and get a more, I don't know, flashy AIO, you could go ahead and do that for a little bit extra funds. Maybe if you went with a 1 terabyte SSD and you could use those savings to, beef up your AIO. You can switch it up however you like, but for today's build, we are going to be using this AIO right here. I think it's gonna look pretty good in there, and I think these RGB fans are gonna match the included ones in the case, so let's go ahead and assemble it. So this system is going to be pretty powerful, and because of that, I need at least a 750 watt power supply. So I picked up a Thermaltake Tough Power 750 watt GT power supply. Now for this exact build, 750 watts is perfect, but if you didn't want to sell your PC at the end and you were more looking at something that you would upgrade, then I would probably go with an 850, maybe even a 1000 watt power supply, depending on what you're planning on upgrading to. But for today's build, 750 watts is perfect. So let's throw it in. Talk about the single piece of hardware that is completely jacking up the price of every brand new gaming PC. The graphics card. It is not a secret that graphics card prices have been astronomical. MSRP is basically a joke, and if you think I'm kidding, the MSRP for one of the highly sought after 9070 XTs is actually $599, but you can't find a 9070 XT for anything less than like $840 right now. That is $240 more than what you should be paying for that card. And don't even get me started with Nvidia's 5000 series graphics cards. Not only is the MSRP a complete joke, but the amount of problems that Nvidia has had with the 5000 series launch is laughable. So not only would I want to wait out the pricing on that, I would also love to give them more time to fix whatever issues they are having, because it seems like they're having a lot of them. So if that's the case, what are we going to be choosing for today's build? Well, I picked up this EVGA 3070 Ti. Now, some of you guys may not like that I chose a 3070 Ti, but I did so for a reason. For this particular build, we are going to be reselling the system. Now, if I wasn't planning on reselling my system, I would have absolutely gone with the 6800 XT, which is the equivalency of the 3070 Ti. And the reason that I would have gone with the 6800 XT is because you get 16 gigs of VRAM versus the 8 gigs that you get with a 3070 Ti. But with a 3070 Ti, we get a graphics card that has much better support for ray tracing, which is something that most games that are coming out now definitely take advantage of, and we have the ability to use DLSS. And because the gaming PC that we're building today is something that I'm planning on selling a little bit down the road once prices normalize, I absolutely wanted to use an Nvidia card. And the reason is because it is absolutely undeniable that gaming PCs with Nvidia cards sell way faster than gaming PCs that have AMD cards. I think that it's an absolute sad fact, but it is a reality. Now here's where the price is gonna get a little bit different for everybody, because out of all the hardware that's going into today's build, this is the only piece of used hardware. So I was able to pick up this 3070 Ti for $280, and that's unbelievable. that's a really great deal for this card, but I can find them on eBay for around $360. And you could also choose the 3070 non-TI variant and get those for around $300 as well, and you would still have great 1440p gameplay and a system that you could sell for a great amount of money later on down the road. And as I said before, I would much rather have the 6800 XT, which you can get for around the same price, and have more VRAM. But I would only do that if I was keeping the system for myself and then doing like an internal upgrade down the road. But let's go ahead and throw this card into today's system. That's it. We have an extremely good looking 1440p capable gaming PC that we were able to build for a grand total of $1,126. Oh, you guys haven't even seen it yet. There you go. So I'm going to apologize now. Somewhere in between yesterday and today, I have become infected with something. I'm sure that my oldest child brought something home from school, and now I'm all stuffed up. So if I sound a little nasally, I do apologize.
I'm gonna try and get through this without annoying you with like a whiny sounding voice.
Now before we get into anything, wow, this thing looks awesome. Now before we put the PC in here, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know if I was gonna like this case or not. I mean, I knew it was unique, and that is exactly what we needed for today's PC build, but I didn't really think that I was gonna like it all that much. But once we got the system put together, this thing is pretty darn cool. Even though I do think that this area right here is pretty bare, probably the perfect area for like a little tiny monitor. So the original build design that I came up with for today's computer did not have this mounting style for the graphics card, but after I put the graphics card in the way that you're supposed to for this case, I really didn't like it all that much. I felt like there was far too many vertical lines. What is vertical? I don't even know. Is it vertical, horizontal? I mean, it's hanging, so like, what is it? Yeah, so vertical. I mean, typically when you put this mount in there, that's a vertical mount, so I don't even know how we would, I mean, what is that? So it's vertically horizontal? I don't know. Now it kind of goes against the design pattern of this case to, have your graphics card like this, because I feel like the idea was to have your graphics card mounted in there normally so that you can see the fans from the front here, but the way that I have my desk set up, this would look better, so I just did it the way that I kind of like this look better. I feel like it takes up more space inside of the case and doesn't have as much straight up and down look, it just, everything was just straight up and down. The sickness is taking over my brain. I can't even think anymore. Now, one thing about this case that you probably might want to know is that you do have to unlock this top section here to get to your motherboard I/O panel and your graphics card and everything. Real quick edit in here, I did need to correct a mistake. I just told you that you needed to remove the entire top panel in order to get to your I/O, which actually is not correct. I wanted to let you know that you can remove this tiny little magnetic flap here and get inside and plug in and unplug any of the USB stuff into your I/O, and then it routes out the front here just like all the rest of your cables. Just wanted to make sure that I was giving you all the correct information. Now it does route out the front here, and it's not a huge deal, but I know that when I do like builds in the Tower 300 case where you do have to take the top off to get to your I/O shield and everything like that, people don't like that. They always say that that's kind of a deal breaker. So that is something that you have to do with this case. You do have to remove the top to go ahead and route all your cables through the front area here, which isn't a deal breaker for me because once I have everything plugged in, I have a USB hub that I run, so it's not a big deal. But some people, I guess you're just in the back of your computer plugging in and unplugging things all the time. I don't know. One drawback though is I think that they should have done something to clean up this front area here. I just feel like this, it just looks like this should be at the bottom of the case. You know, it should be on the bottom. Yeah, because this doesn't look good. Now, if you're putting it, you know, on your desk, this is kind of designed to be to the left of your monitor instead of to the right of your monitor, like most PC cases. So this is something that you wouldn't even see, but it, you know, it is something. I just put like a covering over it, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't manufacture cases, but I feel like this is kind of just, it doesn't look clean. Now, as of recording right now, the total price to put this system together was $1,168, which is a fantastic price for a system that looks like this. Now, obviously, as we went through the pieces, I told you that there are ways that you could even cut down and make this a sub $1,000 build that is an extremely powerful system. And for anybody who may think that this isn't a powerful system, watch this. So I tested 4 different games on this system, and every one of those games are very graphically intense games, and every game was tested at 1440p. Starting off with Space Marine 2 at a high preset, we were able to get a stunning image and an 86 FPS average. That is such a great benchmarking game because when you play that game, there is so much happening on screen at any given time. I just love seeing how well systems like this can handle games like that. Moving over to Hogwarts Legacy at its ultra preset and ray tracing turned on, we were getting an average of 94 FPS, and the image was just mind-blowing. Now for a little God mode, I jumped into God of War Ragnarok at its ultra preset, and I must say, Kratos, he looks pretty darn good at 96 FPS. Now for something real intense, I tested Expedition 33 because it is absolutely one of the most amazing games, and I was getting an average of 75 FPS at a very high preset. For a comparison, the PC that I have been using for the past 3 weeks has a 9800 X3D and a 9070 XT graphics card. The total value of that PC is somewhere around $2,500 based off of where prices are right now, and I'm only able to get 91 FPS at the exact same settings as this PC right here. That's only a 16 FPS difference between this $1,164 PC and a $2,500 PC. Do you see why I'm doing this video? Now lastly, I did want to play Wukong on here because, you know, every other game that we tested on this thing looked absolutely stunning, and this PC was able to get an average of 76 FPS with the game's preset set to very high. Now I do want to remind you, every one of those games was at 1440p. This thing is awesome. Now please keep in mind, remember what I said in the beginning of this video. This graphics card, I would have much rather gone with a 6800 XT over the 3070 Ti. The only reason that I went with the 3070 Ti is because I'm going to be selling this system, and I know for a fact that Nvidia systems sell way faster than AMD systems. But in games like Space Marine 2, I could only set that game to high, because if I set it over that, we were out of VRAM on this card, because 8 gig cards, while they're still fine, they are limiting, and you want to understand that if you were going to be using this card, it's still phenomenal. I mean, I showed you all the gameplay. It looks great, but VRAM is going to start to become a limiting factor as games continue to come out and require more than 8 gigs. Now, there may be some of you guys who are skeptical on if I'm correct in saying that you could build this system for $1,164 and be able to sell it for pretty much the exact same price or a profit. And the reason that I can confidently say that is because I've done it twice now. And including this graphics card right here, I'm gonna do it 3 more times. Now, some of you guys who have been watching this channel for a little while, you may have seen in a previous video, I had 3 of this exact same card. These aren't the 3 that I had last time. I bought 3 more. And I bought them because I was able to sell the computers for a profit the first 2 times that I did this. The first time was with the Geometric Future review PC that I put together. It did also have a 12700KF and this exact same 3070 Ti. I mean, not this exact same card, but this exact same model, 3070 Ti. And I was able to sell that PC for $1,300, and that PC had a pretty similar build cost to this one. And in my Aqua 93 review for Aquinos, I did another 12700KF CPU, but I did a DDR4 board with this exact same model GPU, and I was able to sell that system for $1,100. And I think the build cost for that system, because it was a DDR4 system, ended up only coming out to like $890 or $920 or something like that. So while it's not massive profit, it is profit, and I got to play on a very, very nice gaming PC in the meantime. Now, to get those prices for your system is really going to depend on the area you live and, your market, because I live in an area where people will pay that kind of money, and some people may, you may live in Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere, and you might not have as easy of a time selling your system. And if that is the situation that you're in and you don't really have a market to sell your PC and you still wanted to do something like this, then it is possible to sell those systems. You could use sites like Java. I've never personally used Java because I haven't needed to. I have a decent market here, but I know that other people have had success selling their systems on Java, so there is options out there to sell systems still. Or you could just keep the system, and when GPU prices come down to something that you find acceptable, you could just take out the 3070 Ti, resell that, throw a 14900K in here and a 5000 series GPU, and just be on your way, because that is a powerhouse system right there. Now listen, I am not at all trying to steer you away from building your dream gaming PC. In fact, I want you to build your dream gaming PC. I just don't want to know that you overpaid for that gaming PC when there are great performance options out there. I mean, this right here, doing this is 1000% what I was put on this earth to do, to build gaming PCs and make videos for you guys. And I will always do my very best to make sure that you have all the options. But enough getting mushy. I'm gonna go ahead and put the parts list for every single thing that I purchased for this build right here in the description down below. Please feel free to go take a look at them. And if you wanna take my advice, I would love that. If you don't wanna take my advice, that's all right too. But even if you do or do not want to take my advice, I would still really appreciate it that if you did have a little bit of fun here today, please go hit the subscribe button, as well as hit the like button. They're in close proximity, so it wouldn't be too crazy to just hit both buttons. If you are a member of the PC Rehab YouTube channel, I wanted to give you a special thank you. You're pretty much the most awesome ever. And for everybody else, I hope that no matter where you are in the world, that you are having the most fantastic day. And I'm gonna see you right here for the next video.